Shall we begin? Shall we begin? Y'all already know the rules. When you come in my house, take off your shoes and super violate that like button. Now, when we talk about content, topics, this is a topic right here. So, recently, Terror Squad Pete, Pistol Pete, did an interview on I forget the platform he did the interview on. Shout out to them. And he had a lot of stories to tell. And one of the stories that he told was how when he was in the penitentiary, he went to the yard, he dropped his flag on the floor, and with the poking all of the blacks that was in the yard. So from that conversation, it sparked conversations.
Yo, what's Papino? Zeke Black is in the building. Top of the morning, good morning, America. A couple of my good friends from Spanish Harlem hit me up the other day. They said this controversy on the internet about something that Pistol Pete from KAR said about a situation that happened in Kisaki. Now, from what I know about Pistol Pete, KAR, I remember him from the Cypress Boys. His name rang bells seriously in the streets. So this isn't the guy that just wanted to be a rapper or a guy who's running around Fat Joe. He was running around the Jose Lidos, the Pistol, the Boy Georges, crews like the Blue Thunder crew, things that y'all may not even know about. He was on the Roseland scene, and he was outside. He was around everywhere. If you was an OG, he was going outside around that time. You definitely seen Pistol Pete. He was outside. He was outside when outside was really outside. Now, this is my take. He said a story, right? He explained the story about something that happened in Kisaki. Now, this is my thing. You guys got a history saying that y'all was oppressed by the Latins, and this is why y'all created a movement called the Bloods. But every time a Latin get up here and explain some oppression, y'all get mad and say they lying. You know what I'm saying? So this doesn't make sense because because a lot of you guys come on these platforms and actually mention, the Blood was started because the Latinos was oppressing us, the Latin kings and the Nietas. But every time when they jump on a platform and say how they oppressed y'all get up here and say, they lying and they're capping, and he's going too far. Now this is my thing. Either your history's a lie, you know what I'm saying, or he's lying. But it can't be both, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't gonna lie to you. He definitely made it sound very oppressive when he put the flag on the ground, and it wasn't a flag. It was like by a bandana or something he put together. And they started cutting everybody. So he's only feeding into the history of y'all being oppressed. Now, to my knowledge, shout out to Queen's Flip. He had contact with some original Latin kings that said the original beef was with Jamaicans. So, I would think the people that can really touch on this matter, just like Pimp said, Pimp, GKB, he said the people that Pistol Pete should reach out to have this conversation with all the people that was around those years. Some of the lines, some of the smokes, some of the homies, the 5%ers, the renegade guards, renegade Muslims, the kings, the Nietas, La Familia, DDP, those that was around. With that being said, peace.
That brought up old memories of why the Bloods was started. And it also sparked conversations on who was the real Pete. And whether Spanish Pete is a fraud or not. And he be capping. Now, I'm going to give y'all my take. Even though a couple of years ago, I just met Spanish Pete for the first time, I'm going to give y'all the breakdown between Pistol Pete Rolock and Puerto Rican Pete, Terror Squad. Let's start off with the first Pistol Pete. The first Pistol Pete was actually Terror Squad Pete, but I'm gonna give y'all the difference. See, when you listen to the interview with Terror Squad Pete, he breaks himself down, sort of like what Tupac said, "I ain't a killer, but don't push me. Revenge is like the sweetest joy next to getting picture paragraphs unloaded, wise words being posed." Y'all heard the song, right? Pistol Pete had a name. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Pistol Pete was a dude that got busy if he had to. He was in the streets. He come from the Cyphers boys. I don't know if some of y'all know about the Wild Cowboys. Pete had a name, right? In the penitentiary, Pete wasn't a sucker. He had a name. Now, as far as his story goes, with him going to the yard and poking up all the blacks that was in the yard, there was a guy, I seen the video, he actually came forward and he said, yeah, he was actually the dude, the one person that he vouched that was him that got poked, and he was there that day. Now, let me say this, right? Because I'm going to take you back to what I didn't like about Rikers Island, right? I seen a lot of bullies pull bully moves, sucker moves on Rikers Island. And I'm going to bring up an example, but this brother was not a sucker. Scar Blood, Quintel from Queens, right? I seen Scar go to the yard with a red rag just like this and walk through all the Latin Kings and Nietas in that yard. Threw the rag up, spit, and went to blazing the whole yard. The whole yard? The whole yard. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, it's not a thing to me when, like, if there's Puerto Ricans that I know, if they would have been in that yard when Scar went through and start cutting, they would have grabbed his little self. Not to take nothing away from Scar, because I know some Puerto Ricans that gets busy. They nice with their knuckles, and they will carve you. It wouldn't have went down like that. Same thing with Pete. There's dudes that I know, if they was in that same yard, when they went to stabbing, I've seen situations like this. Give you another example, right? I was in the building when Tankhead, I think it was Tankhead and T-Bone, was in a box, and they climbed over the barbed wire into the fence of the Latin Kings and Nietas, and they went to tearing them dudes up in the pins. And see, the difference is, I think during them times, dudes was handcuffed, so it was a little bit different. But when it all boils down to it, it all boils down to who your opponent is. Because on Rikers Island, I saw a lot of dudes run around with 20 and 30 cuttings because they was cutting dudes that was on the bus, on their way to court, reading their Bible, scared to death. Boom! He don't even know you cutting them. He don't even know why you cutting them. Now when the bus is going back to Rikers Island instead of going to court, and ERU was pulling us back into the pens and whooping dudes out. The dude that cut didn't even know who cut him until he heard about it later, because the nigga was running around bragging like, yeah, you know, I had to tear something up, nigga. You cut something that wasn't cutting nothing. Pete might be telling the truth in this situation. A lot of dudes don't like it. But it was a lot of that going on. And I'm not saying that's the case with Pete. I'm just saying, it all boils down to who was in that yard. Because I know I could throw some names out there of dudes that was on Rikers Island that was getting busy. I'm not taking nothing away from Pete. He was getting busy. But I don't think Pete came across a dude like Robo Just in that yard. There's dudes that really was putting in that pain, that you just wasn't going to be the only one stabbing. It was going to be victims on each side. Now, shout out to Pete. The moral of the story is that Spanish Pete, he did get busy. So now let me give you the difference between Spanish Pete and Pistol Pete Rolock. Pistol Pete Rolock was a serial killer. He wasn't your average dude. Pistol Pete Rolock, when he came out, I don't know if he knew Spanish Pete. He didn't care. When he came out, he was sort of like, you seen the serial killer movie with Dexter? The dude that was the police officer Pete was a serial killer. He wasn't a gangster. He was a serial killer that just so happened to be a gangster. It was a difference between that dude. It was a total difference. And if you ever spoke to Pete and you ever got to know him, you'll know the difference in him. Pete wasn't I ain't a killer, don't push me. Pete was I dare you. I triple dare you. Pete was the dude that was going in the tunnel that had 1,000 killers around him. Even though some of them, most of them turned rats because they wasn't really ready to go to the level and the extent that Pete was ready to go to when it came to holding it down in the penitentiary. Pete was the type of dude that went into the tunnel. When they try to make you think that Brooklyn niggas ran the tunnel, Pete used to go in the tunnel with the twins and BMO and the rest of the crew. Shout out to BMO. And they used to take their jewelry off and their money and throw it in the middle of the floor inside the tunnel and dare you to pick it up. And they used to dance around their money like, I dare you to pick it up. Yeah, them Bronx niggas. Yeah. So, not to take nothing. You cannot take nothing away from Spanish Pete. I just gave y'all the difference. Pete'll get busy if he have to. He ain't nothing to play with. If you bump into him at the wrong place in the wrong time, Puerto Rican Pete will turn you upside down. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about that. He ain't no sucker. But Pistol Pete Rolock, back in the days, we used to play Scully. And at the end of the game, you had to hit a killer to be a killer. Hit a killer, be a killer. Not shoot a sucker and become a shooter. Hit a killer, be a killer. That's the difference. When you look at Pistol Pete Rolock's resume and the caliber of dudes that he killed, remember, this nigga was running around turning TVs off. And a lot of niggas who TV he turned off ran with gangster niggas that didn't do nothing. Nothing? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. So that tells you, if it would have been somebody else other than Pete, they would have got busy. But because it was Pete, niggas was looking in the opposite direction. Some niggas turned pastors. Some niggas decided that year that they wanted to start loving their kids for the first time of their life. Black Pete was the boogeyman. Puerto Rican Pete wasn't nothing to play with neither. There's the difference between the two. Y'all stay tuned. I got mad topics I'm coming with today. I'm going live probably 11 o'clock this morning. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. And pay attention to your circle before they hurt you. And before I end this video, understand something. The mistakes that Pistol Pete Rolock made, he made those mistakes as a kid. I guarantee you if Pete came home right now, he'd be a totally different man. He's in his 50s now.